I never thought I'd be raising my daughter alone in the same house where my wife and I once planned our future. But war changes everything, and sometimes, it only takes one sentence from an unexpected person to help you find your way back home. If you're touched by stories of resilience, healing, and unexpected connections, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more heartfelt stories that remind us of our shared humanity. The key rattled in the lock as Marcus Winters balanced his duffel bag on one shoulder and a small pink backpack on the other. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the porch of the modest two-bedroom house he hadn't seen in 14 months. Behind him, his 7-year-old daughter Lily stood quietly, her small hand clutching the stuffed elephant that hadn't left her side since her mother's funeral 2 years ago. "Home sweet home, kiddo," Marcus said, forcing cheerfulness into his voice that he didn't feel. The door swung open with a familiar creak, revealing a living room frozen in time. His sister-in-law had kept the place clean during his deployment, but it still felt like walking into a museum of his former life. Lily stepped inside cautiously, her eyes scanning the room as if searching for something, or someone, who wasn't there anymore. Marcus watched her, the weight in his chest heavier than any gear he'd carried overseas. How do you explain to a child that coming home doesn't always feel like coming home? "Your room's just like you left it," he said, setting down their bags. "Want to go see?" Lily nodded, but her feet remained rooted to the entryway floor. Marcus knelt down to her level, his knees protesting after the long flight home. "What's up, Lil?" Her voice came out barely above a whisper. "Does Mommy still live here too?" The question knocked the wind from his lungs. During his deployment, his sister-in-law Claire had cared for Lily, maintaining the delicate balance of keeping Sarah's memory alive without reopening wounds. But now, back in the house where they'd been a family of 3, the absence felt overwhelming. "Mommy lives in our hearts now, remember?" Marcus said, the rehearsed line feeling hollow in his throat. "But she's always watching over us." Lily's eyes filled with tears. "But I can't see her." Marcus pulled her into his arms, feeling her small body shake with sobs. He'd faced enemy fire with less fear than he felt in this moment. How was he supposed to rebuild their life when he barely knew how to start his own again? The first week home passed in a blur of administrative tasks, school registrations, and sleepless nights. Marcus would jolt awake at the slightest sound, his body still primed for danger. During the day, he'd catch himself staring blankly at walls, lost in memories he couldn't share with anyone. Lily grew quieter, her normally bubbly personality subdued in the new old environment. On their 8th day home, Marcus stood in the kitchen, staring into an empty refrigerator. The military had trained him to survive in hostile environments, to lead men and women through impossible situations, but it hadn't prepared him for grocery shopping as a single dad or helping with second-grade homework. A knock at the door startled him from his thoughts. Through the peephole, he saw an elderly man with silver hair and kind eyes, holding what appeared to be a casserole dish. Marcus opened the door cautiously. "Can I help you?" "Name's Frank Holloway," the man said, extending the dish. "I live next door. Thought you might appreciate a home-cooked meal. Moving in's always a hassle." "We're not moving in," Marcus corrected automatically. "Just returning." Frank's eyes registered understanding. "Ah, military?" Marcus nodded, accepting the dish. "Army. Just finished my 3rd tour." "Vietnam, myself," Frank replied. "Long time ago now." An awkward silence fell between them, the unspoken brotherhood of those who'd seen things they couldn't unsay. Marcus was about to thank him and close the door when Lily appeared behind him. "Who's that, Daddy?" she asked, peering around his leg. Frank's face softened as he bent slightly. "Well, hello there, young lady. I'm your neighbor, Mr. Holloway." "I'm Lily," she said, her voice small but clear. "Do you have a dog?" "I heard barking." Frank chuckled. "That's my old buddy Rex. He's getting on in years, but he still likes to announce visitors." Lily's eyes lit up for the first time since they'd returned. "Can I see him sometime?" Before Marcus could intervene with a polite deflection, Frank nodded. "Rex loves children. You and your dad are welcome anytime." After Frank left, they ate the lasagna in silence, save for Lily's occasional questions about the neighbor's dog. That night, for the first time in a week, she fell asleep without tears. The next morning, Marcus sat on the porch with his coffee, watching the neighborhood wake up. His body was home, but his mind still wandered to dusty roads and the faces of comrades he'd left behind. The transition back to civilian life felt impossible, like trying to fit puzzle pieces from different sets together. Frank emerged from his house, an aging German shepherd moving slowly beside him. The old man waved, then made his way across the adjoining lawns. "Morning," Frank called. Rex here was insistent on meeting the new neighbors. Marcus nodded in greeting, noticing how the dog's muzzle had gone gray, much like his owner's hair. "Lily will be thrilled. She's still sleeping. Military hours haven't worn off yet?" Frank asked, easing himself onto the porch step with a grunt. "Some habits die hard," Marcus admitted. "Though I'm not sure what to do with myself now that I'm back." Frank nodded, scratching Rex behind the ears. "I remember that feeling. Like you're a stranger in your own skin." The simple acknowledgement, from someone who truly understood, loosened something in Marcus's chest. Did you have family when you came back?" "Wife and a son," Frank said. "My Catherine had to become both mother and father while I was gone. When I returned, I didn't know where I fit anymore." Marcus stared into his coffee. "Sarah, my wife, she died while I was on my first tour. Car accident. I came home for the funeral, then redeployed 3 weeks later." Frank was quiet for a long moment. "That's a heavy burden to carry alone." "I don't know how to be what Lily needs," Marcus confessed, the words spilling out before he could stop them. "I'm trained to complete missions, assess threats, make split-second decisions. But I look at my daughter and I'm terrified I'll fail her." "The most important missions are the ones we're least prepared for," Frank said. "But that doesn't mean we can't complete them." Before Marcus could respond, the front door opened, and Lily appeared in her pajamas, her eyes widening at the sight of the dog. "Rex," she exclaimed, all sleepiness vanishing. "Careful now," Marcus cautioned as she approached. "Ask Mr. Holloway if it's okay to pet him." Frank smiled. "Rex is gentle as they come. He loves attention." Lily knelt beside the dog, her small hand tentatively reaching out. Rex sniffed her fingers, then nudged his head under her palm. The smile that spread across Lily's face was like sunshine breaking through clouds. "He likes me," she whispered, awestruck. "He's a good judge of character," Frank said with a wink. As Marcus watched his daughter gently stroking the old dog's fur, something shifted inside him. For months, he'd been existing in a state of suspended animation, going through the motions of life without truly living it. But seeing Lily's joy, simple and pure, reminded him why he'd fought to come home in the first place. Over the next few weeks, a routine began to form. Marcus would take Lily to school in the mornings, then spend hours applying for jobs, attending VA appointments, and trying to relearn the rhythm of civilian life. In the afternoons, they often found themselves at Frank's house, where Lily would play with Rex in the backyard while the two men talked on the porch. Frank never pushed for details about Marcus's service, but he offered his own stories freely, not the harrowing combat tales, but the small moments of humanity he'd witnessed. The Vietnamese child who'd given him a handmade bracelet. The letters from Catherine that had kept him sane. The struggle to find purpose when he returned. "I became a high school history teacher," Frank told him one evening as they watched Lily throwing a tennis ball for Rex. "Figured if I had to carry those memories, I might as well make them mean something." Marcus considered this. Before enlisting, he'd been halfway through a degree in engineering. "I always liked building things," he admitted. Thought I might finish school someday. What's stopping you? Frank asked. The question hung in the air between them. What was stopping him? Fear? Inertia? The crushing weight of responsibility? Lily needs stability, he finally said. And I need income. School seems like a luxury we can't afford right now. Frank nodded thoughtfully. There's a construction company in town that hires vets. Owner served in Desert Storm. Might be worth looking into while you figure things out. The suggestion was practical, devoid of pressure or judgment. Marcus found himself grateful for Frank's straightforward approach, so different from the pitying looks or awkward conversations he'd endured with others. That night, after tucking Lily in, Marcus pulled out his laptop and searched for local construction companies. He found Bridger Construction, owned by a Michael Bridger, former Marine. Their website prominently featured their commitment to hiring veterans. Before he could talk himself out of it, Marcus sent an email inquiring about positions. The response came the next morning, an invitation to interview that afternoon. Marcus stared at the screen, a mixture of hope and anxiety churning in his stomach. He hadn't interviewed for a job in nearly a decade. What's wrong, Daddy? Lily asked, noticing his expression over her cereal bowl. Nothing's wrong, he assured her. I might have a job interview today. Her face brightened. Like when my teacher asked me questions before I got to be line leader? Marcus smiled despite his nerves. Something like that. But I need to find someone to watch you after school. Can I go to Mr. Frank's house? She asked eagerly. Rex is teaching me to play fetch. Marcus raised an eyebrow. I thought you were teaching Rex to play fetch. Lily giggled, a sound that still surprised him with its rarity. No, Daddy. He's teaching me to throw better. He says I need to use my elbow more. The image of the old dog giving throwing lessons made Marcus laugh, a real laugh that started in his chest and bubbled up unexpectedly. Well, we should ask Mr. Frank first. It's not polite to invite yourself over. After dropping Lily at school, Marcus walked next door. Frank was in his front garden, carefully pruning rose bushes that bordered his walkway. Morning, Marcus called. Got a minute? Frank straightened, pressing a hand to his lower back. Got nothing but minutes these days. What can I do for you? Marcus explained about the interview, feeling strangely vulnerable asking for help. I know it's last minute, but Lily mentioned wanting to come here after school. I completely understand if. I'd be delighted, Frank interrupted. Catherine always wanted grandchildren. Never got the chance. Having Lily around, it's a gift to an old man. Relief washed over Marcus. Thank you. I shouldn't be more than a couple hours. Frank waved away his gratitude. Go get that job. And remember, he paused, his eyes crinkling at the corners, you've faced worse than a job interview. The interview went better than Marcus had dared hope. Mike Bridger was direct and no-nonsense, but his understanding of the challenges veterans faced was evident in every question he asked. By the end of their conversation, Marcus had a job offer, starting as a general laborer with the opportunity to train in specialized skills. It's not glamorous, Mike warned, but it's honest work with decent pay. And we understand that some days are harder than others. Marcus accepted on the spot, a weight lifting from his shoulders. He had a purpose again, something concrete to focus on beyond the swirling thoughts in his head. When he arrived at Frank's house to pick up Lily, he found them in the backyard. Frank was sitting in an Adirondack chair, watching as Lily carefully brushed Rex's coat. The old dog lay contentedly at her feet, eyes closed in bliss. How'd it go? Frank called, spotting him at the gate. I got it, Marcus replied, unable to keep the pride from his voice. Starting Monday. Frank's face split into a wide grin. Never doubted it for a second. Lily looked up from her grooming duties. Daddy. Mr. Frank taught me how to make lemonade from real lemons. And we baked cookies. And Rex showed me his special spot under the porch where he hides his favorite toys. Her excitement was contagious, her words tumbling out faster than she could organize them. Marcus couldn't remember the last time he'd seen her so animated. "Sounds like you had quite an adventure," he said, kneeling to pet Rex. "Did you thank Mr. Frank for having you over?" Lily nodded solemnly. "Yes. And I asked if I could come back tomorrow, and he said yes if it's okay with you." Marcus glanced at Frank, who shrugged. "I've got nowhere to be. And this old house hasn't had this much life in it since my son moved to California." "I don't want to impose," Marcus began. "It's not an imposition," Frank said firmly. "It's a favor to me as much as to you. Besides, Rex has already decided Lily is his new best friend. You wouldn't want to break an old dog's heart, would you?" And so a new pattern emerged. Marcus would work during the day, building houses and slowly rebuilding himself in the process. Lily would go to Frank's after school, where she learned to garden, bake, and listen to stories about a world before she was born. On weekends, the three of them often went fishing at the lake or visited the farmer's market together. Gradually, Marcus began to notice changes in himself and Lily. The nightmares came less frequently. Lily's laughter became a regular soundtrack to their days. The house that had felt like a museum began to feel like a home again. Summer arrived, bringing with it warm evenings perfect for backyard barbecues and firefly chasing. To celebrate Marcus's promotion to crew leader, they invited Frank over for dinner. As Marcus stood at the grill, he watched Lily and Frank setting the patio table together, their heads bent in serious conversation about the proper placement of napkins. The scene struck him with unexpected force, this makeshift family they'd created from the broken pieces of their lives. Frank caught his eye and made his way over to the grill. "Need any help with those burgers?" "I think I've got it under control," Marcus replied. "Though I'm still learning the finer points of grilling." "Like most things in life, it's about patience," Frank said, leaning against the deck railing. "Speaking of which, I've been meaning to ask you something." Marcus flipped a burger, raising an eyebrow. "What's that?" "The community college is accepting applications for fall semester," Frank said casually. "Thought you might be interested in finishing that engineering degree you mentioned." Marcus stared at the grill, watching fat sizzle on the coals. "I don't know, Frank. Between work and Lily. They have evening classes," Frank continued. "And a certain retired teacher might be willing to help with homework supervision a couple nights a week." The offer hung between them, generous and life-changing. Marcus looked over at Lily, who was now carefully placing her stuffed elephant as a guest at the table. "Why are you doing all this for us?" Marcus asked quietly. "You barely knew us a few months ago." Frank was silent for a long moment, his gaze distant. "When I came back from Vietnam, I was a mess. Nightmares, anger, couldn't connect with my family. Felt like I was drowning in plain sight." Marcus nodded, understanding all too well. "There was this neighbor, old guy named Bill Jenkins. Korean War vet. One day, he saw me sitting on my porch at 3 in the morning, couldn't sleep. Instead of ignoring me like everyone else did when I was having a bad day, he came over and sat down. Didn't say much, just sat there until the sun came up." Frank turned to face Marcus directly. "But before he left, he said one thing that changed everything for me. He said, 'The war ends when you decide it does.'" Marcus felt the words settle into his chest, profound in their simplicity. "Took me a while to understand what he meant," Frank continued. "It wasn't about forgetting or pretending the past didn't happen. It was about choosing not to let it define my future. About finding the courage to build something new." He